I've never hidden it. I love all things Star Trek. I may not have a Star Trek cosplay outfit, but I'm ready to talk Star Trek anytime, anywhere, with anyone. I love watching the show. Today, I'm here to talk about my favorite episodes of the original series. Let's go. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Today, I'm all in here, Jim the father, with nerdy things. Star Trek, baby. Haven't talked enough about this yet on the channel. Now's the time to get into it. If you enjoy what I talk about today, be sure to hit the like button. And we hope you'll subscribe to our channel. We got tons of things out here. You can even join our Fantasy for the Ages community. Click the join button to learn more about that. I may not have a Star Trek uniform to show off, but I've got other things. I've got the Star Trek encyclopedia right here, and I've read this from front to back. Amazing stuff. I've got the Star Trek, the original series sketchbook. Great art from all over the series. Speaking of the series, I've got them on disc in cute little cases here. Back in the day when we bought things to watch physically. I love my Star Trek. I even have a batleth. This doesn't come into play too much in the original series, but it's serious, it's metal, it's sharp. It's a letter opener. My daughter got it for me as a present. She is very cool. With those bona fides established, let's talk episodes. Today, I've ranked my top 10 favorite episodes from Star Trek, the original series. If you're watching this, you know these episodes, you love them. I won't need to talk about them much in depth. Instead, here's what I'm going to do. I will name and lay out the broadcast details of each episode. I will give a little plot reminder, nothing in depth. I'll mention my favorite performance from this episode and a little bit of trivia. And that'll just be the way we'll move right on through these. Number 10, ranked list. Of all the episodes, here's my 10th favorite, A Piece of the Action from Season 2, Episode 17. January 12th, 1968 was the original broadcast date. This is when the Enterprise visits a planet that was visited by the Federation 100 years ago, but has not been contacted since, and because broadcast speed was slower back then, the Federation didn't even know anybody had been to this planet until just recently. A previously less advanced society was visited on there, and now, 100 years later, they've become a complete clone of 1930s Chicago. The age of Prohibition and Al Capone, the gangsters. They have copied everything religiously. Now, how in the world did a society turn into that? Turns out the previous ship accidentally left a book behind all about Chicago in the 1930s. And this society viewed it as a holy book, and they have basically emulated it to the nth degree. And now our Star Trek crew has to fix all this, and in order to do so, they basically have to slip into mobster roles and make a course correction. This is a very entertaining episode. It's not super deep, it's just fun. Standout performances, I'll give it to Kirk and Spocko. Entertaining and humorous performances are delivered very well in this episode. Trivia: the 1930s props and costumes looked great. They were very authentic. These are expensive things to do. And in Season 2, Star Trek is already feeling the pinch on their budget. How did they pull this off? Well, they were filming on Desilu Studios, part of Paramount at the time, and this was the same set, the same basic studios, where the classic show The Untouchables was filmed. So all they did, they went and raided the storage areas, and look at what we got. It was fantastic. Number 9, The Devil in the Dark, Season 1, Episode 25. Remember when seasons had that many episodes? There's like 29 episodes in season 1. It's great. So this is episode 25, which aired on March 9th, 1967. In The Devil in the Dark, the Enterprise is responding to a mining operation on a planet that's having some real trouble. Something has gone horribly wrong. It turns out they've run into a silicon-based life form, which is so far outside our carbon-based experience that they don't even realize they're up against another life form. The crew, primarily due to Spock, are able to figure this out and communicate with this entity. They clear up the misunderstanding and they even work out a deal so everyone can live happily ever after. The standout performance in this one, I'm giving a shout out to DeForest Kelley, who of course plays Dr. McCoy, where he coins his famous "I'm a doctor, not a blank" line for the very first time. In this episode, in this case, it was "I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer." But he'll go on to keep using this throughout the rest of the run, just changing the last word. Trivia for this episode: while filming the latter half of this particular episode, William Shatner received word his father had just passed away. The crew was like, "Oh man, Bill, we're sorry. Yeah, we'll shut things down. You go do what you got to do." And he's like, No. Finish. Let's finish the episode. And they did. They went on and finished, and then he went and took care of family needs. Number 8, Shore Leave. Season 1, Episode 15, first broadcasting December 29th, 1966. This is one of the more entertaining episodes again. However, it starts out very light and entertaining, then gets very dark and serious, and then gets light and fuzzy again. Because the crew come upon an idyllic, uninhabited planet that seems to be the perfect place for a little R&R. Until the individuals start seeing things that can't possibly be real. Turns out they've stumbled upon an ancient amusement park that had been created by a long gone, highly advanced race, and it's trying to meet their dreams and desires. And, well, our crew doesn't know what they've stumbled upon, so things are out of control. The performance that stands out for this one is Dr. McCoy, again, actually because he gets killed in this episode, only to come back later at the end of this episode with a couple of beautiful babes on either arm going, "Hey, no, I'm fine, guys." Because nothing that happens bad to you is going to be permanent here. The technology is so advanced, they can fix everything. It's all about the fun. The trivia for this one: this episode was written by Theodore Sturgeon. You might know that name if you're a sci-fi fan. He was one of the great authors of science fiction in the 40s and the 50s. And he's still around now writing Star Trek episodes in the 60s. Okay, number 7. I've got Operation Annihilate. Season 1, Episode 29, first broadcast April 13th, 1967. In this one, the Enterprise is exploring a phenomenon where civilizations are falling to mass insanity along a pattern in the galaxy. And looking at the direction of what's next, there's a personal tie-in for Kirk. That's where his brother and family live. Turns out there is a life form that's been moving through space, jumping from planet to planet, that's basically a big brain, but it's individual brain cells that are huge. They're like this big, that are attacking people and driving them crazy. One of them attaches itself to Spock, who, as a Vulcan, is a little different than how a human would react. He manages to struggle and resist the insanity that's trying to take over his brain. And with his help, because everyone else has to get away from the planet, he's able to be there on the planet trying to puzzle things out because he's already infected. With his help, they figure out a cure. But that cure is one that, well, it's going to leave everyone blind. That's the price you got to pay in order to wipe this thing out. Fortunately, although it looks like Spock is taking one for the team and is completely blind now, his blindness turns out to be temporary thanks to his incredible Vulcan physiology. The shout-out performance is for Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, resisting that alien influence and then accepting his blindness with a stiff upper lip, prior to discovering it was only temporary. Really nice performance there. Way to go, Nimoy. The trivia for this episode, it was the season 1 finale. So, great one to finish us off with. Also, when Kirk discovers his brother on the planet already dead and he reaches down to, to turn over a body, confirm it's his brother, he's actually playing his dead brother. So that's actually Kirk, William Shatner, on the ground being turned over, not obviously by Shatner himself. It's a double with the arm pulling the shoulder around. Odd little trivia. He plays his dead brother. Right. Number 6, The Naked Time. Season 1, Episode 4. First aired September 29th, 1966. So this is very early in the Star Trek run. This is the earliest of the episodes I'm going to put up here. In this one, the Enterprise crew is infected by an alien virus, and it causes them to start acting irrationally as this infection spreads through the crew. They act as if they're drunk or drugged and making completely reckless and ridiculous decisions that put the entire ship in danger of destruction. Obviously, they figure it out, most especially due to Dr. McCoy. Standout performances, Lieutenant Sulu ending up in a Three Musketeers mode, shirtless, ready to fence with anyone he can come across. He is hilarious here and actually quite skilled with the swordplay. The trivia: Star Trek The Next Generation basically has a sequel to this episode. So this is, The Naked Time. The Next Generation has The Naked Now when they deal with a very similar virus. Number 5, The Return of the Archons, Season 1, Episode 21. First aired February 9th, 1967. In this one, the Enterprise visits a planet where one of their ships was lost about a century ago, and they find a placid, calm society until it hits festival time, when all inhibitions are tossed out and you basically have the purge happening on Star Trek. They eventually get to the bottom of this, though, which is a computer that is taken over, and they manage to break down the computer. They logic it to death, and it frees the society. Shout out for Captain Kirk in this one, who smooth talks his way into figuring out what's going on, and then smooth talks his way to overcoming Landru, the computer, with Spock's most excellent assistance. Trivia: Captain Kirk refers to Dr. McCoy as Doc several times in this episode. His nickname as Bones had not yet been established, but soon would be, and completely eradicates Doc. Number 4, A Taste of Armageddon, Season 1, Episode 23. First aired February 23rd, 1967. The Enterprise comes upon a world that has been at war for 500 years. Now, the people on this planet try to tell them, don't come down here. There is great danger. We're at war. Bad things could happen. And they're like, there's no signs of war anywhere. I think we'll be okay. Until they go down to the planet, and while they're visiting, there's a bombing, and they're all dead. Except they don't hear any bomb or anything. They discover that this planet is at war with another planet, but it's all being done on computers. It's a virtual war, with the exception that if you, by the calculations of the computers, end up in the blast zone and are dead, you must report to the execution chamber. You die. Kirk and Spock and all, they're like, what? And no, the society explains, we have become far more civilized here. I mean, if we were truly using massive weapons of destruction, we would have completely wiped out our societies long ago. In this way, we still mostly go on with our lives. And by the computers, when something makes it through, okay, we pay the price for that. But in that way, nothing else is damaged and everybody else can continue on healthily. And our people are like, okay, you've been at war for 500 years because you're not doing it right. They break the computer, forcing the two planets to recognize we're going to have to revert to using real weapons. Maybe we don't want to do that. And now they're going to have to talk and maybe work this out. Real peace has a chance. The shout-out performance goes to a guest star, actor David Opatashu. He delivers a stand-up performance as Anan 7, the leader of this planet, who simply is not able to comprehend how Kirk and his people don't understand the wisdom of their highly civilized war. Opatashu was an accomplished stage and screen actor with many credits to his name, just one of a number of actors like this who will come to guest on Star Trek. The trivia for this episode is that in the first draft of the script, Kirk and Spock, they destroy the computer, but they pretty much just fight their way in and fight their way out and leave the planets to work it out themselves. In the actual show, they help a little more. They actually leave an ambassador to help them learn how to negotiate and work things out together. Number 3, Space Seed. Season 1, Episode 22, which first aired February 16th, 1967. In this one, the Enterprise encounters the sleeper ship Botany Bay. You're like, yes, the Botany Bay. You know this episode where they find Khan and other supermen and women from Earth's past. And they nearly lose their ship to these people. Of course, this whole episode lays the foundation for the most excellent The Wrath of Khan. The shout out goes to Ricardo Montalban, who just nails his portrayal of Khan Noonien Singh and will do even better when he comes back for the movie. Trivia for this episode is that in the original story outline, Khan's name was Harold Erickson, and they were leaning more into a Viking style of genetically enhanced human. In that case, the character was going to be less sophisticated than Montalban brought to the role and much more brutal. I'm kind of glad they went with the change. All right, number 2, Amok Time. Season 2, Episode 1. This is where we kick off the second season of Star Trek. It aired September 15th, 1967. This is where Spock goes into Ponfar, the Vulcan time of mating. We're learning something very new about Vulcans here. He tells them he must get back to his home planet now. He'd kind of lost track of when this was going to come, and now it's here, and he must get back to his planet or he's going to die. So they rush to Vulcan, and once there, Spock needs to get down to the planet, and he asks Kirk and McCoy to join him, to be his advocates, to be with him, to honor him by coming down. Down here, things spiral out of control in a wacko kind of way, and we end up with a Spock versus Kirk battle to the death. Spock, under the fury of the Ponfar, his blood is on fire. He cannot control himself, and he kills Kirk. Killing his captain snaps him out of Ponfar, but it's too late. Kirk is dead. Spock is done with his responsibilities on Vulcan, and he and Bones take Kirk's body back to the ship, and Spock is ready to pay the price, the consequences for what he's done. However, it turns out McCoy had pulled a fast one and had drugged Kirk, so he only looks dead. He's mostly dead. He's not really dead. He comes back to life, and all is happy again. Standout performance goes to Leonard Nimoy. This great job of taking his stoic Vulcan character and now dealing with hormones in a very intense manner. The trivia for this episode: this is the first episode where we get the Vulcan hand salute, which was Nimoy's idea. It's based on a Jewish tradition and symbol that they will use. Interestingly enough, the person playing the priestess on Vulcan had trouble doing this. Who knew? All right, number 1 of my episodes is not true. Okay, this is the one I have as listed as number 1, but there's another one coming, so don't freak out. Number 1 is Mirror Mirror, one of my all-time favorites, Season 2, Episode 4, first airing on October 6th, 1967. In this episode, the Enterprise is at a planet in the midst of this giant space magnetic storm that's causing some issues with their controls, and Kirk, McCoy, and Uhura and Scotty beam down to the planet. Then they need to beam back up, but the storm's gotten worse, and there's a malfunction in the transporter because of the storm. It doesn't kill them. I mean, they beam up successfully. They just beam up to the wrong ship. It's the Enterprise, but in a different universe, a mirror universe, home to a much harsher and militaristic Federation. And their mirror universe counterparts, the four just like them, are now on their Enterprise and trying to wreak havoc. Both of the Spocks are the ones who basically lead the way in figuring out what's gone wrong and work to set things right. It's an interesting note in the mirror universe that Spock, who's really therefore kind of the dark, evil Spock, knows they're imposters, they're not his people, yet he still sends them back because he wants his guys back too. So that's how it works. I loved the mirror universe, and in particular, I give Leonard Nimoy the shout out in this episode because his portrayal of this darker but still uber logical Mr. Spock is fantastic. Trivia: the first draft of this episode had Kirk as the only one getting swapped. Again, the change in the final, much, much better. Okay, so that's my top 10, but I have an uber number one that surpasses the 10 on the list. So it's like one with a star, or I don't know. It's a special episode that stands above and beyond all the others, and that is The City on the Edge of Forever, Season 1, Episode 28, first airing April 6, 1967. In this episode, an away team finds an alien artifact that, interesting place. It seems to be a portal upon other times and places. Meanwhile, up on the Enterprise, Dr. McCoy has an accident where he accidentally injects himself with a drug that he's trying to give someone else. He overdoses on this drug, altering him completely, and in an altered state, he beams down to the planet and jumps into this portal. Where is he gone? He's actually back in Earth's past. And this is not good. Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, they follow him back because unfortunately McCoy does some damage to the timeline and they're going to need to fix it. This is a very moving episode. There's some deep things that happen here. There's some great acting all around. We have fantastic guest star of Joan Collins appearing in this one. But the shout out for acting in this one, the performance goes to Captain Kirk, William Shatner, when he has to choose to allow the woman he has fallen in love with, perhaps the one he has fallen more deeply in love with than he ever does again, the woman played by Joan Collins, he has to let her die. She dies in a car accident. Bones could have stopped it, but that's the problem. She was supposed to die in a car accident, and Bones would have stopped it. Kirk's here to make sure Bones doesn't stop it. And she dies, which sets the timeline back in order. Without that, World War II was going to end differently, badly. We were going to have the man in the high castle. So we can't do that. He fixes it, and it's very, very hard. And it kind of hits. The trivia for this episode is that it is the most expensive episode that Star Trek ever does in all 3 seasons. But it pays off. It won the Hugo Award for Science Fiction Best Dramatic Presentation. It's arguably the best episode Star Trek, the original series, ever puts out. So that's my top 11, really. My top 10, and then my one above them all. But I am going to shout out just one more, an honorable mention. I didn't want to put it in the top 10, but I really enjoy this episode. And I didn't have much that I can say that about from season 3. But here you go, season 3, episode 6, Spectre of the Gun, which first aired October 25th, 1968. This is the one where, as the Enterprise is trying to contact and work with a planet that has massive psychic powers, they actually get sucked into a psychic experience where these aliens have put them down into an ancient Earth experience. Well, not ancient, but a past Earth experience. They're at the OK Corral, and they're going to have the shootout against the Earps. Unfortunately, Kirk, McCoy, Spock, Scotty, and Chekhov, they're playing the guys who lose at the OK Corral. How is that going to work out? It's a really fun episode, and because of their choices and how it does work out, they actually do make inroads to this alien race of strong telepaths, and all comes out well. The trivia for this one is great. DeForest Kelley had previously played Morgan Earp in the 1957 film Gunfight at the OK Corral. Now he's on the other side of the calculation. That was great. So there you have it. There's the top 10 plus one and an honorable mention of episodes I really enjoy from Star Trek, the original series. There are some really bad ones too, but not too many. Honestly, reflecting on all these again, it was a lot of fun. So I hope with you thinking about these too, you really enjoyed remembering some great Star Trek episodes. If you have a favorite in here you think is top 10 worthy and I didn't mention it, here's your chance. Put it down in the comment box. Let me know. While you're there, don't forget, like the episode and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.